When things get politically chaotic and it feels like the truth is constantly shifting, where do you even start? How do we find a way to think clearly and maybe even act bravely? Well, it turns out one of the best guides for this is the 20th century philosopher Hannah Arendt. This is someone who lived through the absolute collapse of Europe. She spent her entire life trying to make sense of the darkness she saw. And what she came up with, well, it's incredibly relevant for us today.
Okay, so to really get Arendt, you have to start where she started with her own experience. She was a German Jewish refugee, and she had to flee the Nazis. She wrote these words in 1943 after she'd made it to New York. And just listen to that. We lost our home, our occupation, our language. For her, this wasn't some abstract political issue. This was everything, the complete and total loss of a normal life. Everything that made her world, was just gone. And this was not some theoretical idea for her. Look at this. This is the Gurs transit camp in France. Arendt herself was imprisoned right here for 6 weeks before she managed to escape. This was her reality. It's a world where the rules of normal life didn't just bend. They completely shattered.
So an experience like that, it forces you to ask some pretty big questions. And this one question really became the driving force for her entire life's work. It's a question that, honestly, feels just as urgent right now as it did back then. When the world you thought you knew just falls apart, how do you even begin to make sense of it? How do you live in it? Okay, so let's get into it. The banality of evil, or how she tried to understand the darkness. Her first job, as she saw it, was to try and understand the absolute horror that she had just escaped. And this led her to probably her most famous and definitely most controversial idea. It's a totally new way of thinking about evil. So what she realized was this. The real danger of a totalitarian regime wasn't just about convincing people to believe in its ideology. No, the real goal was something much deeper. It was to completely destroy the idea of a shared reality, to blur the line between what's real and what's fake, between fact and fiction, until people are so confused, so lost, they'll believe anything. Sound familiar? And then she got a chance to see this idea in action, up close and personal. In 1961, she flew to Jerusalem to cover the trial of Adolf Eichmann. Now, this was the guy who organized the logistics, the trains, the schedules, for transporting millions of people to the death camps. She wanted to see the face of evil for herself. But what she found was not what she or anyone expected. What she saw absolutely shocked her, and it led to this famous phrase, the banality of evil. Banality just means ordinary, boring. The terrifying thing about Eichmann wasn't that he was some kind of demonic monster. It was that he was nothing special. He was a clerk, a bureaucrat. His evil was terrifying because it was thoughtless. He just followed orders. He never stopped to actually think about what he was doing. The monstrous had become his normal, everyday job. All right, next up, the power to begin and how we can respond to this darkness. Because look, Arendt wasn't just about pointing out how terrible things could get. She was obsessed with finding the way out. If the goal of these systems is to make people feel useless and interchangeable, then what's the antidote? Where does our power to resist actually come from? For her, it all came down to our ability to start something new. And this really lays out the central fight, doesn't it? On one side, you've got this system trying to crush everyone into being the same anonymous cog in a machine. But on the other side is what Arendt called, and this is a key idea, natality. It's the simple but profound idea that every single person who is born is a brand new beginning, a totally unique chance to think, to speak, and to act in a way that the world has never seen before. It's our secret weapon. So how do we use that power to act when everything feels so broken? I think Arendt would have loved this image as a metaphor. Take a look. These are ancient Greek sculptures, right? But notice what's different. They haven't been perfectly fixed up to look brand new. Instead, they've been, and this is a cool term, de-restored. The damage, the missing pieces, the scars of history, they're all left right there for you to see. And that's the whole point for Arendt. She would say our past, our traditions, our history, it's just like those statues. It's broken. We can't just pretend the awful things that happened in the 20th century never occurred. The only way to move forward is to look directly at the broken pieces, to understand the damage. Because, and this is the beautiful part, it's right there in the gaps, in the brokenness, that we find the space and the freedom to build something completely new.
Which brings us to our final section, Arendt's final lesson, a love for the world. So after all this, facing a broken past, staring down the barrel of thoughtless evil, What was her final answer? Where did she land? You might think it would be despair, but it wasn't. Not at all. It was something she came to call a love for the world. The phrase she used was amor mundi. It's Latin for love of the world. But, and this is super important, she did not mean this in a sentimental, hearts and flowers kind of way. For her, this was a tough, active, courageous choice. It means loving the world enough to actually pay attention to it, to wrestle with how complicated it is, and to take real responsibility for it, warts and all. And listen, this wasn't some easy, feel-good idea she had from the beginning. This quote from late in her life proves it. She says she's only in recent years begun to truly love the world. This was something she earned. I mean, after a whole lifetime spent looking into the absolute darkest parts of human nature, this is where she ended up, with a deep appreciation for the fact that we're all here, together, in this world. So, in the end, her work really just turns the question back to us, doesn't it? In our own time, which is so full of distraction and division, she leaves us with this powerful challenge. She asks us to really look at the world, the good, the bad, all of it. And then she leaves us with this one final, incredibly important question to answer for ourselves.